So grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Um, spent my spent my whole time there basically. Went through college. I went to LSU. After college, I moved down to New Orleans. Went to medical school and residency here, so was here for 8 years. Um, moved to Pittsburgh for a year, and then Oklahoma City for 3 years. And we have been back in New Orleans since 2018 now. Married. I have two sons, 7 years old and 4.5. Um, and yeah,
That's
pretty
awesome.
much pretty much the story. I'm a pediatric anesthesiologist, and I own a painting franchise.
Nice, nice. So you're familiar with kids. You deal with your kids at
Yeah,
home and at work.
it's
So
easier at
tell
work, so I can put them to sleep.
yeah. Yeah, I know. So you have a little bit more control.
Yeah.
Uh, so in terms of like growing up, so tell me a little bit about, how you grew up, your parents, what was your parents' style, your dad, your mom. You had any siblings and all that?
So I'm an only child, not by choice. Parents had a lot of problems, conceiving, had a lot of, miscarriages and stuff afterwards. Had actually explored adoption, got offered triplets at one point, but I was probably like 12 or 13 at that point. It was triplet girls, newborn girls, and had to decide that night and ended up deciding that was not quite the right move.
Oh wow.
Um,
You were 12 and they were still
I think
looking to
so.
adopt?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Um, so like I said, tried multiple times, like tried a
Nice.
lot, but
Yeah.
my mom, after I was about 6 months old, I believe, like stayed home with me until like I think she worked like substitute teaching at the elementary school I was at and eventually went to work there probably when I was in late high school or college before she actually started working there. My dad uh grew up here in New Orleans, started working for Winn-Dixie grocery store when he was 16, ended up working there for like 25 years,
Oh
had a
wow.
degree in criminal justice, wanted to be a state trooper. Um, my mom basically told him it was her or the academy when he got in. He chose her. Uh,
Nice.
um, so he, like I said, he ended up at Winn-Dixie for about 25 years, then probably almost 20 years at Target after that. Um, always working hard. He was store manager of a Winn-Dixie until he had worked his way up, like I said. But he was store manager most of my like early elementary time. When I was in fourth grade, he hadn't had a day off in months. And basically went in and told him that, he's missing my childhood essentially, and
Yeah.
that he didn't want to do this anymore. And the only department he had not worked in was the meat department. So he became a meat cutter at Winn-Dixie. Um, and worked his 40 hours and came home and we would he would come check me out of school and we would go fishing or do things like that. Got to spend a lot more time with him. Ended up starting a lawn service, just him.
But hold on. That's fascinating, that part about him he's managing the store. It takes retail is a tough business, and being a store manager is definitely a demanding job. And it takes time to get to that level where you can actually become a store manager. So he actually walked away from that to be able to spend more time with his family.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So definitely, like, I mean, he's definitely a hard worker. And that was, especially looking back now, like an amazing sacrifice that
Yeah.
he chose.
Do
Um,
you remember that era, that change that happened before and after? How old were you? I don't really know what you.
so like nine.
Nice.
ish.
So you should be able to remember. All
Yeah,
right.
no, I mean, I definitely remember from basically not seeing him. I mean, he was normally gone, like, before I was, up and, not there until after I was asleep. So
Yeah.
didn't see him a whole lot.
Yeah.
Um,
And that 9 years is like the most formative
mhm.
years, if you will, for your life. So how did that change impact the family dynamic?
Like I said, definitely more involved. Um, I wasn't terribly involved in like sports and activities and stuff like that when I was young. Still spent, a lot more time
Yeah.
with my mom, especially because she was, at school and stuff like that, and not having ball games and stuff on the weekends. Like we would end up with my aunt or cousins or whatever, running the roads, going to my grandparents' house and stuff like that. Um, like I said, we went and did, fishing trips and stuff like that. Neither of us are great fishermen. Um,
That's good.
my his Another part of this is both of his parents died very young.
Hmm.
Um, they were both in their early 50s. His dad passed away like 6 weeks before I was born, and his mom passed away about 6 months after I was born.
Oh wow.
So he kind of always thought, worried that he was going to die early, like them. He was very close to my mom's parents. Kind of adopted them as as parents. So we did spend a whole lot of time with them. He got
Nice.
very close with them. He and my grandfather would go, take rides to, just kind of hang out and go find a place to go pick up crabs or whatever, drive around for a couple hours or dream about getting a fishing camp or whatever. So
That's awesome.
um, that was really cool.
So did you? Was your dad like the present type? Was he the cheerleader type? Was he the coach type? What kind of dad was he?
Um, I mean, he was always there for me. Now having kids,
Yeah.
I know how different I was. I want to say I was just a really easy kid, but
Yeah.
like, my two sons bounce off the wall, and I was never like that.
Yeah.
Always really focused on school stuff and like, even like student council and that kind of stuff. Um, so there wasn't a ton of, when I was real little, like t-ball and stuff like that. Like I did karate a little bit, like, but it wasn't ever like there wasn't anything he was missing coming to games and stuff like that. And even more so once he kind of stepped down, I wasn't doing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so like it was more like we were always family dinner, going out, like going to stuff. We traveled a lot more than, we probably most at our economics.
Oh,
Um,
really? Why?
that's just something, we enjoyed as a family. They enjoyed, I mean, a lot of like cruises or going to the beach or that kind of thing, like nothing
Yeah.
extravagant.
Was it your dad driven or your mom driven?
Um, I- Probably both. Not, I mean, I don't know that it was really one or the other,
Okay.
or don't remember it being one or the other. Um, we typically did a trip with all the cousins and stuff to the beach. My grandmother sold real estate, and like the broker she worked for had a condo, strangely down the street from the our nightmare property that we had for a couple of years. So like all the cousins and stuff, like we would all go down, once a year together for that.
Nice.
I am the second oldest of nine, on my mom's side. So I mean, we were real close, but
Yes.
I'm my cousin and I are the same age. But like the ones, the sister my mom's the closest to was, um, her kids are a good bit younger than me. So it was kind of, I guess, big brother to them. But
That's awesome. It's awesome to have like a close cousins, and especially if you live nearby and you get to
mhm,
spend a lot of time, and especially if you spend vacation time with them, that's even more
yeah,
fun. That's cool. And so in terms of like what your parents did, what are some of the things that you love about what your parents did?
they were always, available. They always like, I was always with them.
Okay.
Like, they didn't take trips away from me. Like, I always went on big trips with them too. I was always in adult situations. Um, I think that was very helpful, but also, like, now as a parent, like, I want to make sure my kids have a childhood. Not saying I didn't have a childhood, but like
Yeah.
like it was me. Like, I didn't want to, like, that was part of it. Like, with the younger cousins, I was like, I don't want to go color with them. Like, that's like, I want to go do whatever. Like, um, and even like they called my parents, or so they tell the story, like kindergarten, first grade, like they wanted me to see a psychologist because I would only color in black.
Okay.
So like
That's dark.
my parents asked me why, like, I hate coloring. Like, I just picked one color and like I did it because they told me to, but like
Yeah.
I don't want to color.
Yeah.
So like things like that. Like, I was
Oh, that's interesting.
like, I kept going. Like, I went to like a computer camp when I was younger. Like, one of them actually was about like creating a business. So like I had designed and like planned out the omelet shop that I was gonna like build, like where it was gonna be, like all this kind of stuff, like this summer camp. Like, um so I think like sometimes, like I said, like I try to make sure that I'm not trying to make, especially the 7-year old, like let him be seven, let him be
Yeah.
wiggly, let him do like, I try to catch and like talk to my wife sometimes and be like, look, just let him like let him do that.
Let them be.
And we have them at an all boys school, and that's part of why. It's like, boys learn differently. Like, boys wiggle. Like, I don't want them
Yeah.
sitting in a desk. Like, they have balls to sit on sometimes. Like, they have little cubbies and or like little sitters and stuff to move around all day to like, so just kind of
Yeah.
remembering some of those things.
Yeah. Boys are a little bit more physical. They want to move. They want to do
Yeah.
stuff. Um, yeah, it's different than girls. So you think that like you're maybe because you're a single child, you're like a little bit. There's more focus on you.
Oh, yeah.
You're
They're
like
still
you're the
they're
prize.
still they're still the focus on me.
Yeah.
Uh
So you're the prize. So you're kind of like you're embraced too much, a little bit too
yeah,
much.
my
You
wife
know.
jokes that I'm Dr. Son Baby Jesus, or something like that is her
Okay.
is her quote. Um,
So so for on the one end, the good thing they did is that you were there for everything. They included you in everything. But then on the other, it's the same
mhm.
also on the, what they should have done is gonna let you loose a little bit and let you give you a little bit more freedom and
I mean,
leave you a little bit more
yeah, I
freedom.
don't know that I would have chosen differently. Like, just
Okay.
like me as a person, like I didn't want to hang out. Like, I don't know if it was like whether I only hung out with adults because I only hung out with adults, or whether like I just really didn't want to be with other kids, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, kind of chicken and egg type thing. Um, but
Interesting.
not having siblings, like, I mean, my kids fighting all the time. I'm like, I, I'm not used to this. Like, I don't know how to deal with this. I never had to do this.
Yeah.
Um,
So what are some of the things that you do that you learned from your parents that you're doing now, and what are some of the things that you saw your parents do that you don't do with your kids?
So I mean, definitely being, intentional time, especially like one-on-one time, because like that's all I had was one-on-one time.
Yeah,
It's amazing to see the difference of their behavior and actions and stuff like that, like when we're one-on-one versus, having both of the boys.
yeah,
Um, Exposing them to as much different things as possible and letting them kind of figure themselves out. Um, doing the family board meetings and stuff like that with them. Um, Trying to, figure out their interests. Um, this year one of my goals is to not only do the, normal quarterly family board meetings, but take actually little small trips like with each of them. Um,
nice,
Something overnight. Um,
nice. So in
just
general, so what are some of the things that you're not doing that your parents did that you're not doing?
I don't want to make them like the center of everything. Um, I want to make sure our marriage is strong. We're still kind of in that phase that they are kind of the center of everything, and like,
Yeah,
we're finally kind of getting to the point that we can be a little more active without them, and take them to more places and stuff like that. Um, so that is
how old are they now?
4.5 and 7.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's tough. 4.5 is still young.
Yeah, and he is
And
he is very
do you have a
active.
good babysitting? You have a good babysitting infrastructure or no?
Not like it. My parents will come in town. They're an hour away.
Okay,
And we have like friends that will, you know, the reason my wife lives in or moved to New Orleans, that her best friends, like, they will watch them. One of their twins, actually, one of the twins has a almost, she'll be 13 next week, and a 10-year-old. So they are little
yeah,
mother hens and love being with them. So they'll go spend the night over there with them
nice,
sometimes. We've been working on
nice,
getting like actual babysitter, finding, we got a couple numbers from, some teenage girls and college kids that,
nice.
we need to just make it a priority to do it. So,
Yeah, I found that like it took us a while. I mean we moved a lot, so it's very hard to kind of build the infrastructure. But I found if you just put down the date,
mhm.
okay, we're gonna go on the date night, happy hour every Friday, or double dates on Saturdays. That's what usually kind of our
Yeah,
routine. But every week there's
that's
something,
been the
and
difficult
then once you had
thing
yeah,
with my clinical schedule, because there's
oh
nothing the same,
yes,
and call
it's
like
never the
it's
same.
24-hour calls and stuff like that. Um,
Oh, makes
so
sense.
actually a lot of times like we'll go do lunch during the day, like on my
Oh,
like
okay, that works.
pre-call or post-call days. Well,
Yeah.
now just post-call days because we used to not go in until 3 o'clock. Now we go in at 1 o'clock, so that really messed up.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Yeah,
So we try to do stuff like
yeah.
that.
So what are your goals with your kids? So if everything works out, what would be the ideal
So something I
situation?
really like is the school they're at. Like their slogan is where good boys become great men. And
Hmm.
that is my priority. I want them to, overall be great, like good people, like happy. Um,
So what is the definition of great men? Does the school
n-
define what a great man
no,
is, or
it's a quote,
there's
but
just a quote? Okay,
um,
so for you, what is the
well,
definition of a great man?
I want integrity, honesty. I want them to be curious. I want them to, personally, seek out information. Um, I, want them to be, upstanding citizens, I guess. um, you know, gentlemanly, I guess, especially living in, in
Okay.
the South. Um,
Yeah.
but I I've learned a lot through, good abundance and connection and proximity and stuff like that. That's part of what, es- especially in New Orleans, it's always like the first question is where'd you go to school? And
Yeah.
that tells a lot about the person, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, um,
Yeah.
even, in Baton Rouge and stuff, like everyone knows the high school I went to, like people are very clear about who I am and what I'm about kind of thing just from that probably, which is very interesting.
Interesting.
Um, yeah,
It's like a signal of like your identity if
hmm
you're from a certain high
yeah,
school.
absolutely.
So what is that signal? If you're in that the high school you came
Yeah.
from or you went to,
So I mean,
what is the
it was an
signal?
all
What does
it
that
was
mean?
it's also like a Catholic all boys school. It's been around for 125 years now, I think. Um, it is there's basically two Catholic high schools, or three, I guess, at the time when I was there. This one is the
Yeah.
probably the upper middle class, upper class. Like they know that it is a higher discipline. Like it was started by brothers of the Sacred Heart. Like you're gonna come out as I guess kind of gentlemen too. Like they know what to expect, that it is, very
Interesting.
much college prep. Like you're gonna come out like 97%, went to college from it. Um, it state champion sports, like there's very high standards.
Okay. So high standards for certain academics and
Yeah,
certain
everything
external
like
behavior.
you were
I mean, obviously, there. How many kids come out of
when I
every
was there
year?
about 200. It's grown a lot. Um,
Okay, so 200 people. There's plenty of. Not
nah.
everybody is great. There are going to be some snowflakes and some weasels and some like untrustworthy and some. They may be they may be well spoken and well educated, but it doesn't really
Yeah, but
make
it,
their
it was
character.
always like, I mean, um it was a very big deal that you represent that school 24/7. If
Okay,
whether you do something at school or
makes
you do
sense.
something somewhere else, like you're gonna get in trouble at school for it.
So that's interesting. So in terms of like um, standards, or
Hmm.
certain values of the school, what are those values
Yeah.
that you represent?
Yeah.
Obviously that's what they're saying. They're saying we have values and we expect you to represent these values 24/7. So where are those values?
Necessarily of the school or just in general.
Yeah, yeah, the
I mean,
school.
I think kind of similarly being, the kind of fine, upstanding, whatever, like citizen of that, you are cognizant that other people are looking at you,
Okay.
that, no matter what, like whether you are at, an LSU football game or the high school football game, like you're expected to act the same way, or sitting in math class.
Yeah.
Um,
So integrity.
yeah,
Do the right thing even if no one is seeing you or whatever. So just do the right thing.
yeah.
Any other values?
Um,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm curious. I'm really interested because it's funny because last time we spoke to Alex and we started talking about like religion and some of the values that you get from religion and obviously some of the values that he got from his Hispanic heritage and some of the kind of like the behavior,
Hmm.
day to day behavior that the kids learn just by seeing their parents. And then you mentioned that there's a thing. There's like the school has essentially a certain
Hmm.
influence and a certain brand, and obviously it's just that the people that coming out of that high school are representing the values of that school. So I'm just curious about what are those values in integrity
Yeah,
is one.
honesty.
Absolutely makes
Like I mean,
sense. I'm assuming being a gentleman, and being
like
honest.
we
Okay.
actually started an honor code while I was there, based
You
on
started what again? I'm
an
sorry.
honor code,
Honor code. Okay.
based on UVA's honor code.
Yeah.
So like we had a student-led panel that like I mean if someone cheated, like you were judged by other students.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Um, like the integrity there, like you were supposed to self-report, like you signed it on every test.
Wow.
I don't remember the statement, but there was a statement that you signed that that I didn't cheat, didn't do that, like um not only on the test but like before the test and you're studying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't recall there being like anything defined, like you
Okay.
know s- that they're saying it. Actually, at my
Yeah.
son's school, they have a character of the month. They have
Okay.
a chapel every month about that character. Like last month's was like perseverance.
Nice.
Um, so they do a whole like unit on it every year for whatever,
Nice.
9 years from pre-K three
Yeah.
to seventh grade. About each of these characters. They recognize, students each month at this chapel that display that characteristic. In the
Okay.
older classes, they actually like do service projects based around the value of the month.
Nice.
Like each class like will sponsor one of the values.
Okay.
Um, so
Interesting.
that was another thing that was like really
Yeah, I
cool about it.
appreciate that. I think that's cool. That's really cool because I think kids need things to be spelled out,
Hmm.
and they need repetition, and they need to hear what that value is and how does it apply in everyday life, and then given stories and given analogies and given fables and songs,
Yeah,
about these things, because hearing it in different ways, and then absorbing it in different ways is super valuable. And uh, and it just gives them a toolkit to live life by. And I mean, I think, like, at the end of the day, you don't remember certain math uh, rules, but you're gonna remember,
yeah,
life rules. You're gonna remember some life principles. You're gonna use them in
yeah.
your everyday
Oh, that's
life.
what like like I said, they just did perseverance. When my older son was in pre-K three, they read a book about this guy that planted a seed, and like each day came and picked the weeds and watered the seed and this and this and this, and like finally a carrot grew.
Yeah,
And like it was a big deal. Like they did a whole unit on this book. Like they each got to say their like sentence from the book, like on a recording for the parents. And then this year with the younger one, like it was something about Pete the cat, like showing perseverance, and they dressed up like as Pete the cat and all this kind of stuff. So
interesting.
it definitely,
That's
like,
cool.
they definitely really, build it in there.
Yeah,
So that has been
that's
really
good.
cool.
And I think perseverance, resilience, um, uh, uh, picking the long term versus the short term,
Hmm.
it's super valuable, and especially in today's life where everything is happening fast,
Yeah.
everything is happening convenient, everything is all around speed and convenience. So teaching kids to delay gratification, and to be resilient, to be strong. Yeah. Do you have
They actually have like counselors on staff that do like units with them also about kind of emotional intelligence type stuff.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so we're very happy with it.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah, and it's cool to kind of use that. You kind of like leverage it and use it at home
Hmm.
and give them opportunities.
Yeah,
Like, oh, remember you learned about this in class. This is the moment where you use that.
yeah.
Where you push through and you don't give up on that problem, or you don't give up on this sport, whatever. Do your kids do any sports?
So they're both in jujitsu. Every day on the way there, the 4-year-old says, "I don't want to go," and then has a good time.
Okay,
Uh,
good. That's
uh,
perseverance.
yeah, he played t-ball. Same thing. Like he hated it for the first half, and now he like was sad that it ended, so he's about to start again. And then
Nice.
the 7-year old is doing first tee golf. So
Nice.
he's done a couple like small, like it only ends up being like 4 week sessions, but
Yeah.
the first one we did was he and I did it together.
Yeah.
And he really liked that, but that was the only option. Like that was the only time that it's a father-son type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think he is less interested in it, that it's just him.
Wow.
But he's doing it again.
That's interesting. Yeah.
He starts again on Saturday. So
That's an interesting lesson. It's like if you want your kids to do sports, don't do with them, so they can stay in there and stick to it
yeah,
because they don't
yeah.
attach you to it. If he
But
gets attached to it, then you gotta stay. You gotta keep going.
we both got golf clubs, and part of it is like they get discounts and free rounds and stuff like that at some of
Yeah,
the places. So we just need to go
that's
in
cool.
and do it together.
Yeah, we had when the kids were young, we had these like 4 week programs
Mhm.
here and there, and then it's good to try things, but at the end of the day, they're not going to develop any skill or they're not going to develop any perseverance or
Yeah,
unless it's like an ongoing for like 3, 4, 5 years.
yeah.
And so essentially, you just got to commit. You got to find the sport. You got to commit to it. It's got to be all year. Like that's why I don't really like the seasonal stuff either. So that we did. They do jujitsu all year. They do swimming all year. There are no breaks. The only breaks is when we go travel, but when we're here, they're doing it. So it keeps that consistency. They did gymnastics the same way.
Mhm.
Gymnastics is ongoing, never ending, nonstop. So it becomes part of their schedule, and that creates that. It gives them enough reps to get over the hump of like I'm not good at something to I'm good at something. And then once the world tells them that, oh, you're good at gymnastics, then all of a sudden it becomes part of their identity, and then they'll,
Yeah.
they'll never want to quit it.
We haven't gotten to the point that it's really jujitsu yet. I think
Yeah,
a lot of
they'll
it
get there.
is just running around in circles and like playing dodgeball, and like 10 minutes of the 45 minutes is like
Oh,
actual like
really?
jujitsu stuff. But
Okay. Yeah,
uh
and I also learned that not all gyms are the same.
mhm,
Some are much more disciplined, much more, if you want to call it,
yeah.
academic than others, and it's worth moving. Because I had the kids in one place, and it was like that. It was
Mhm,
loose. There wasn't a real curriculum, and then once they moved to a place where there was actually structure, they
mhm.
loved it.
Well, this is the
They
4 to 6 class.
Okay.
So I think if the older one moved to the older class, I think
Yeah.
it may be a little, we haven't watched that class yet.
Got it. Got it.
It may be a little bit more, but like they have a lot of after school stuff at their school also.
Okay.
So they kind of go back and forth. Like this coming trimester, they'll only go to jujitsu probably once per week instead of
Oh,
twice per
really?
week because there's other stuff they wanted to do. So I think
Oh,
they're doing like Lego club and like another like STEM club um, that
interesting. Okay.
at school
I
though
wouldn't I
kind of
wouldn't
at the same time.
recommend I would make sure that they have one thing that they're like 2, 3 weeks, 2 3 times a week.
Yeah.
At least one thing. Because I think like the skill level that you get to when you do something 2, 3 times a week is different than we do it once a week. And it's very easy to skip one. If you're only doing something once a week, it's very easy to not do it at all that week because of something that may happen or trip or
Yeah.
schedule. And
But this
so
week we
they
can't
just
make it at all because of Mardi Gras.
yes,
It's right next to the
yes,
Mardi Gras
yeah.
route, so we can't
Yeah.
physically get to jiu-jitsu this week.
Yeah, so what you want, to me, the skill that you're developing there is mastery.
Hmm.
So when they do too many things and they do them a short period of time, they never develop mastery in anything. And I think there's a feeling when the kid develops mastery, especially at that age, like 9, 7, 8, 9. I would say 8, 9, 10.
Hmm.
That's when if they've been doing something for like 3, 4 years and they've been doing it 3 times a week, at some point or around age 8 or 9 is there where they feel like, oh well, I'm good at this, and that's that person that it shifts their personality. It's like, oh, I'm like really good at this, and I've developed a level of mastery, and I can see myself, I understand the process of mastering something, and then that's the part that's the value really. It's not necessarily being a blue belt or a black belt
Hmm.
jiu-jitsu. It's really going through that process of what it takes to master something, and then going through that process of you know um, failing and failing and failing and failing, and all of a sudden it clicks,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that's how. And then some things that come to them easy and other people struggle. They see other people fail a lot to get to that place, so they see it themselves going through it, and then they see others around them going through it. And I think that's the value
Hmm.
from sticking to something for a long time and developing that mastery level. At their level, obviously it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that would be the thing. So how do you, um, you're a doctor, you have a business, a new business that you're starting. How do you kind of juggle everything and manage your time, and still, do you have like a ritual with the kids? What's your ritual?
Um, I try to do as little as possible um once they're home. Try to
Okay.
do as much while, either before in the morning, afterwards, um, or like during the day while they're at school. Um, it's kind of I take them to jujitsu majority of the time if I can. I'll pick them up from school as much as I can. Um, like I said, trying to do as much as possible, like as far as one-on-one with them, or I bathe them and put them to bed, or at least one of them most nights.
Nice.
I just try to spend as much time as possible with them. They're at the zoo right now, and my wife is hammer texting me, but because
Okay.
they're off this today and all of next week for Mardi Gras.
Oh wow. Okay. So
But
is there like a family thing with Mardi Gras? What is the ritual for I've never been
Mar
to Mardi
so
Gras,
Mardi
so
Gras
what's the
actually is very family friendly. So I mean, we were at
Okay.
parades last Saturday. There's parades since Tuesday night. There's been parades. There was parades
Oh
last
wow.
weekend. We went and like their godfather threw them like a 15-foot plush snake Wednesday night that I don't know where we're gonna put. Um,
Yeah, so aside from the parades, what else?
a lot like so. I mean, we're about 2 blocks away from the parades. Like a lot of like parties and stuff like that. Like not like not rager parties, but like community time. So like tomorrow we're gonna be with basically godparents, all that family, a few other families, like just kind of hanging out. We're going, it's almost like a big tailgate. Like
Yeah,
we're getting fried chicken and sandwiches and everything else. Everyone just hangs out on the parade route, watches the parades, the bands, the dancing groups and stuff like that, and
so you get
spend time.
food, you get a chair, you sit on the side of the road and wait for the parade. Is that kind of
Yeah,
like the
I mean, a lot
yeah.
of people like they have, a house nearby. They have bathrooms and stuff like that. They actually build boxes on top of ladders that the kids will sit in,
Okay.
so that they're, 6 feet higher. They made a
That's
lot of
cool.
changes this year of like what's allowed on the parade route and not. Um, so you can't have tents and stuff anymore. It looks like there still
Hmm.
are some tents, but um, I don't think they're enforcing it as much as they initially planned after the stuff from January 1st.
Uh,
Um, they're focused a little more on security than whether people have tents or not.
makes
Uh,
sense. Are they is there like a special food or treats
a
or
lot of fried
what's going
chicken.
a lot of fried chicken.
King cake. King cake's the big thing.
What's king
Um,
cake?
so I mean, it's actually like. hundreds of years old for Lent. French, like galette de race or whatever. Like it's very different than what that is, but it's
Yeah.
essentially a large oval cinnamon roll with some are icing and some are powdered, like, or some are like granulated sugar that's purple, green, and gold. The kids have it every Friday, and
Interesting.
then it has a baby inside, and whoever gets the baby has to bring it the next Friday.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so that is all part of the leading
So
up
so
to Ash
that
Wednesday on
so
Wednesday.
that region has there's a rich culture and
Hmm.
there's like a lot of history.
Yeah.
So how do you do you talk to the kids about it? Do you talk about the history of the region, where those people, the heritage, where they came from, it's just, kind of like celebrating the holidays and doing the rituals, but really not necessarily knowing exactly where those rituals come from.
So I mean, they know, like, they've talked about a lot about it at school, but also
Okay.
we have a book about king cakes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it's the girl gets the baby and has to bring the king cake, the next week, and how stressed she is deciding on which version of the king cake to bring, whether to
Okay.
bring, a traditional one or bring that French version or bring like one that has chocolate on it or bring this. So she has a dream and a flying king cake baby takes her to all of these different versions and like talks about the history behind it and like
Interesting.
it it's actually a pretty good book.
That's good.
Um, so we've been reading that a lot. So
That's good.
they know it. How much they, know it, based on that it is, leading up to Lent and indulgence and lack and whatever. I'm not sure they're
Yeah.
quite there yet, but
And how about religion? How do you think of religion? Do you are you and your wife, religious? Do you want the kids to be in the religion? How do you think about it?
yeah. So I always went to Catholic school. Was an altar boy, like all that through high school. Um, my wife actually converted to Catholicism. um, right before, just before we got married, to actually become the godmother of her friend's the 10-year-old. Um, and we got married in the church. Like the boys have been baptized. It hasn't been something we've stressed until recently.
Okay.
Um, like I said, they're both at Catholic schools or Catholic school. But this year, that has been something that we have both kind of been focusing on.
Is it
So we,
some event happen, or it's just age, or just now they got to an age where you can actually have that conversation?
a little like because they, have been, at the Catholic school, like they talk about it, like they've asked about praying and like, um, Grant will make his first communion and first reconciliation and stuff next year.
Yeah.
So wanted to, get him more involved and stuff. Um, but also like they're kind of at the age that they can actually sit through mass and stuff also.
Makes
They've
sense.
been doing it at school. Um, so that has kind of been part of it. So we've been going to, the mass that has kids mass, so they go out for like 15 minutes, like and talk about it in kids language and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just wanted to re-engage.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think religion has definitely a lot of value in terms of
Mhm.
packaging um, principles and packaging values, and then teaching them a certain way. And then there's a social element with the kids, having other kids,
Yeah.
friends in there. And then I think in your case, you have the school as well, so it's all one community. Yeah. So do you have a lot of friends that are like your the parents of your kids' friends?
Mhm. Yeah, we have a lot of friends. It's kind of gone in waves up and down.
Yeah,
Especially as so Grant, my older one, he was 2 when COVID happened, basically.
yeah.
So he started at this school with COVID,
Hmm.
masks and all that kind of stuff. Like we never really got to do a whole lot of the, different activities and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
the parents were really close, right at the beginning. Like
Okay.
everyone celebrated birthdays together. Like we kept
Yeah.
doing like a monthly dinner. As they've kind of gotten into different sports and stuff. Like I said,
Yeah.
he's not as into it as
Hmm.
some of the other guys. So like some of those families have gotten really close.
Yeah.
But no, like we do a lot with, you know, his friends and stuff like that. My wife's at the school a whole lot. She's been room mom for his class last year, and she's room mom for
Nice.
Harrison's class this year. So getting to
See.
like I really enjoyed getting to know the kids,
Yeah.
getting to know the families and stuff like that. So
So how do you think about like who your kids become friend with? Like, what's your thinking there?
I mean, I part of wanting him to be at this school
Yeah.
is putting him in those places and proximity to, other like-minded people.
Yeah.
There's definitely been kids that probably aren't the best, influences or that, we steer less towards. But knowing the parents is, all the parents are really, involved, like between, you know, like yesterday for the kids, the younger ones parade, like all the dads had to come and decorate a float.
Okay. Nice.
Um, we had like construction day back in the fall and like Dino Dig Day, and it's all very dad oriented, which is
Yeah.
really different than a lot of schools.
That's cool.
So I mean, I know all of them, like, not terribly well, but like I can tell you like who they are and um, hanging out with them. Like they try to put them, on the same baseball, t-ball teams and stuff like that. It's a third party organization. Like it's not school, but they ask what the school is kind of thing.
Nice.
So like
And
hanging out with them and that stuff like that.
nice. So you mentioned COVID earlier. How did COVID impact your kid being going into school too? Did it have any effect, or did you see any? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I don't think like he was young enough to not really know any different. Before like we did take him a lot of places. Also, like Harrison was born July of 2020.
Hmm.
So we weren't doing a ton anyway since,
Yeah.
Nikki was
Okay.
pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, but like he was more used to going into, I guess, more adult situations and doing well. And then there was like a gap of that happening. So, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden we had 2 children trying to do
Yeah.
that. So I don't know how different things would have been, had we been able to continue some of that.
Makes sense.
Um, they're both in speech therapy.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know how much relation that is that, they were so young. I don't know how much they they had a mask around their neck. I don't know how often it was on their mouths. So I
Yeah.
don't know how much they missed because they weren't,
Hmm.
or Grant wasn't old enough to really wear a mask.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was only like his 2-year-old and 3-year-old. Like I think by pre-K 4 they weren't wearing masks
Okay. That
anymore.
makes sense. So
Um,
how do you think of like how do you think of technology, phones, tablets, all that stuff?
we try to limit it. They both have, tablets. we, for the most part, only um, it's pretty sparingly. We got them when we were driving back and forth to North Carolina and stuff, and
Okay.
that's really kind of when they used them. Um, with um, Grant now has an actual iPad that I've like limited which YouTube channels he can go to, and it's all kind of educational stuff. Like there's a First Tee app on it that I put on there, like Khan Academy, ABC Mouse kind of stuff. So kind of limit a lot of what they're doing on it, and not a ton. They probably watch more TV than they should. Um, but they never really like. Sometimes you see like kids taking the parents' phones and playing on that. Like they've never like had our phones free will kind of thing.
Nice.
Um, as far as, stuff with AI and all that kind of stuff, like I think they need to be learning some of that. And like I think, maybe not quite yet, but I think they need to have some knowledge of technology and
Yeah.
how to use
Have
it.
you
So
shown the older one a little bit or no?
we actually do like the AI ChatGPT like voice stuff a lot.
Okay.
Like when they're in the bath or like bedtime stories, like we'll create stories together.
Yeah.
Um, he'll make up stuff about chicken nuggets and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
he's familiar with it. And he's like,
That's cool.
I want to use that app. Like,
Yeah.
he
He likes
does.
the creative part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
awesome. Cool. Well, I appreciate you, Adam, taking the time. Sorry we
yeah,
had our
absolutely,
technical issues, and
not a problem.
definitely appreciate kind of seeing your insight, your experience, and that's I think the benefit of these conversations. Like every one of us has a different path, and we're all learning from what our parents did and what we lived through, and then we're trying to construct this completely different lifestyle, different way of raising kids
Yeah.
in an era of AI and technology and everything else.
Yeah, they're gonna have completely different lives than us. I feel.
Yes, yes, I appreciate it. Hold on.
Absolutely.